Hello and welcome to this how-to video delivered to you by Barco Residential. Within this video we want to have a look at the quick setup of the Pulse platform projectors by the Prospector interface. However, before we do that, let's have a look at the unboxing of the product, because there are a few important things to note here also. The first thing I'd like to highlight is specific to the US market, relating to the power cords. The Medea and Loki platform projectors ship with a NEMA 5-20p power cord. This will require a specific power outlet and a 20 amp breaker to be installed by a qualified electrician. The Boulder and Bragi series projectors ship with a standard NEMA 5-15p power cord and will connect to a standard US power outlet. A common integration issue we hear about is integrators accidentally connecting their network cable to the HD-based T-socket of the projector, resulting in them not being able to access Prospector. Please note that the LAN connection, as illustrated, is in the middle of the connectors panel and not located next to the HDMI socket. Barco Residential projectors ship with separate lenses. The reason for this is that it allows us to have multiple throw ratios covered across multiple lenses, maintaining optimal image quality. However, for the uninitiated, there are a couple of tips for installing them more efficiently. The first, as illustrated, is a red dot, which should be located so that it faces the top of the projector, allowing you to locate it within the lens holder more quickly. The second, as silly as it sounds, is to remove the rear lens cover from the back of the lens. The installation of the Medea lens is different to our other Pulse platform projectors. The lens pushes into the lens holder and then rotates clockwise. It will click into position. If you need to uninstall the lens, notice that there's a button in the bottom front right hand corner of the projector that you need to depress to release the lens whilst rotating it anti-clockwise. You can then pull the lens towards you, releasing it from the lens housing. The Bragi, Boulder and Loki platforms have a slightly different lens installation. First, you'll need to release the lens cover. This is done by sliding the lever to the right hand position. With the red dot of the lens pointing towards the top of the projector, the lens should slide into the lens holder. You then slide the lever to the left hand position, locking the lens in place. By now, your projector should be installed and connected to a network. So let's look at Prospector. To access this, load a web browser, preferably Google Chrome, and enter the projector's IP address, followed by port number 9999. This will load the Prospector overview page as shown here. From this page we can see the firmware installed onto the projector. If you need later firmware, visit My Barco and download the latest firmware from the drivers and software section. To install the firmware, go to the Service Firmware menu and follow the on-screen instructions. We do also have a separate video that covers this. The total process should take approximately 15 to 20 minutes. The next thing you want to do is set up the network connection. So click on the Communication and Network. From this menu, you can allow the projector to automatically assign an IP address via DHCP, or click on the manual configuration to set a static IP address. Simply click on Apply once you've finished these settings. From here, the next step is to set the orientation of the projector, which is done from the Installation Orientation menu. We can then move on to the lens setup. First of all, I recommend you center the lens by clicking on this icon in the middle. We then need to calibrate the lens, which is done by clicking on the spanner icons next to each setting. This should be done for the vertical and horizontal lens shift, and where applicable, the focus and zoom. This particular projector is using an older EM43 lens, so it doesn't have the option to do this for focus and zoom. We can then use the test patterns at the bottom of the page to set and adjust the zoom, focus, horizontal and vertical shift as required. One of the benefits of selecting a Barco Residential Pulse platform projector is its embedded simulation-grade warp engine. This allows us to adjust the image geometry without any perceivable degradation to image quality or latency. This is accessed from the Warp and Blend 4-corner menu. From here, we can select to turn on the Warp, 4 corners and Helper toggle switches. We can then select any of the 4 corners and adjust as required. For larger adjustments, we can grab the anchor point and move to the required position. For more granular adjustments, we can select the corner we wish and on the right hand side of the menu, adjust in the X and Y plane on a pixel by pixel basis where each corner resides. By now, our image should be perfectly aligned with the screen, so we can shift our focus to adjust in image quality. To do this, first select the Image and Settings menu, from which we can adjust our brightness and contrast as required. We'll also need to adjust our gamma curve, which by default will be set to 2.2. For a typical home cinema environment, this should ideally be adjusted to 2.4 or 2.5. The final setting is Brilliant Colour, which by default will be set to off. This offers maximum image quality, although can sacrifice light output. If you require slightly more light output, select Video Mode, which will have minimal effect to image quality, but will increase brightness by approximately 30 to 40%. Next, we need to optimize our HDR image. For this, we select the Image HDR menu. I'll change our unit of measure to foot lambert, as this is more familiar with projectionists. Ideally, we aim to measure 40 foot lamberts of screen luminance, so I'll enter 40 and hit apply. However, I'd recommend that you view a number of different HDR movie titles to ensure that they look correct. Ideally, you'd have a professional calibrator calibrate the image and enter the actual screen luminance value measured here. The final image adjustment is to set the projector to the correct color space, which is done by navigating to the Image Real Color P7 menu. By default, you'll see this is set to Rec 709, which is correct for SDR content. However, we recommend you select the HDR mode. The reason for this is the HDR mode is intelligent and can detect the incoming video signal, establishing whether it's SDR or HDR. It can then select the appropriate Rec 709 or DCI P3 color space for that incoming video signal. The final menu and function we'll overview is cropping. This can be accessed via the Image Cropping menu, and by default, as you'll see, is set to off. This will effectively place the projector into 16:9 mode. However, we recommend you select Auto. This allows the projector to detect the incoming content and its aspect ratio and display it correctly on a CinemaScope screen. We have a video that explains this function and menu in greater detail, available on my Barco. We hope you found this quick start video useful. Thank you for watching.